So according to Apple, it is 6:06, and we'll call this regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen for April 26th to order. And I have a number of things to add and a couple of pieces that I would like to move around. So I'll make a motion to move item 7.5, the Deep Sustainable Materials Management Grant Award for Food Scrap Pilot Program, to the top of the agenda.
Second.
Fantastic. Jen Heaton is here, but she also has to go and run the regional recycling poster contest. So we're accommodating her for that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion to add draft inland wetlands and watercourses ordinance to the next item on the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to add as item 7.2.5 Kent Town Center reimbursement to the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Motion to add as new item 7.5 to appoint Anthony Palumbo to the Inland Wetlands Commission to the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. And motion to add as new, I don't know how to say this, new third item to the top of the agenda, discussion on the regional opioid settlement money grant. I'm not sure it's exactly right, but.
And where is this going?
After the draft inland wetlands. So it's basically going to be number 3, but it's sort of up at the top.
Okay. I'll make a second.
Fantastic. It's really just a little bit of information sharing at this point.
Okay. I'm just trying to keep up with all this.
Yeah, I've got them here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we are going to invite Jen Heaton Jones for a quick update on our long-awaited Sustainable Materials Management Grant notification. And I will try to find her. She was just here.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Jen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for accommodating me in your agenda. So I will keep this brief. I'm very excited to share that the town of Kent, in collaboration with the Housatonic Resources Recovery Authority, has received a grant for $55,000 to implement a pilot program for food scrap recycling and for unit-based pricing, also known as pay-as-you-throw. I like to call it save-as-you-throw. This DEEP grant was created to address the state's waste crisis. So for those who don't know, the state of Connecticut produces 3.5 million tons of trash annually. We have capacity for 2.7 million tons within the state. We are trucking 800,000 tons out of the state of Connecticut. That's over 27,100 yard trucks that are transporting material, our material from Connecticut to someone else's state. So in light of that, the state created the SMM grant. We applied last year. I'm very proud and I'm very honored to be able to do this on behalf of the town of Kent. It is a pilot program. It's not a permanent program. It's a pilot program that will implement this food scrap collection program where residents can opt in. It is not mandatory. It's a voluntary system. It gives you the opportunity to bring food scraps to the transfer station. It will be taken somewhere out of the town to be processed. It will bring compost back in the spring to give it back to the community, and in partnership with a unit-based pricing. I have been doing this since 2013, implementing these programs throughout the region. I am very experienced in implementing these programs in partnership with Waste Zero, who has been doing this across the country, hundreds of municipalities, and they also have extensive experience. And I do want to emphasize again that it's not mandatory, it's a voluntary program. And I will be in town Friday, May 12th for an in-person presentation and Q&A to review all of the details, what it all entails, how it will work, what are the logistics, what are our responsibilities, what are the responsibilities or obligations or not obligations of the residents, and all those details on May 12th. And it's a great opportunity for the town to learn more and be a part of the challenge and the task to see if we can manage our waste, reduce our waste in the state of Connecticut, and meet the demands that have been put on us. So just wanted to give the quick overview. Jean, is there anything else you wanted me to cover?
Just said it will be hybrid. So we'll also have a Zoom option for those who want to attend virtually, and it will be recorded as well.
I'm sorry, what time? Is there a time for that on that day?
I can't remember if we arrived on a time yet.
Okay.
We had to move it around a couple of times because of the hearing and, you know, the budget hearing and the budget town meeting. But
Okay.
I would say by the weekend, we'll confirm the time and Jen will come up with a flyer, et cetera.
Great.
But definitely in the evening, definitely in that day, and probably sometime after 6:30. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Jen, I just have one question. Which municipalities here in Connecticut are currently doing this pilot program?
There are, I just off the top of my head, I'm going to say there's at least 6 to 8 other towns, and includes West Haven, Woodbury. I apologize, I cannot remember all of them. They're not part of my region. I can tell you in our region who has been collecting food scraps. So Bridgewater, the town of Bridgewater, New Fairfield, Newtown, Reading, Ridgefield, and Wilton all have been implemented food scrap programs through the HRA and helping with this waste crisis. And in one of our towns in Ridgefield, we're actually doing on-site composting, which is pretty exciting with a solar-powered ASP system. A lot of great innovative programs happening to address this.
Oh, great. Yeah, just for reference, just to see, you know, which other towns are doing this as well. So thank you.
Yes, and Bethel will be a part of this pilot too. So Bethel has their own grant the same in the same time frame as Kent. So Kent and Bethel at the same time will be implementing a new food scrap program.
Great, thank you.
And this is really a great way to prepare for the future. What Jen and I and all town CEOs from around the state have been hearing through the legislative session, and since the Mira plant shut down, is that we have to figure out a different way to do this. And so doing this as a pilot to see, you know, get feedback, collect data is a much better way than to have to suddenly tell our residents, oh, a law just passed and now we have to do this. So it's going to be great to be able to work out the kinks and do a lot of education, which Jen and her team are really very experienced with. So
great.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Jean, that the Governor's Bill 6664 does outline a mandate for municipalities to provide accessible, free access to food waste disposal in each municipality. So it has not passed, but if it were to pass, we would be ahead of the curve.
And as you said repeatedly, residents can opt into this. So just to state what you have said. So thank you.
Welcome.
Great. Thanks, Jen. And have a great time at the recycling poster contest. I'm sorry to miss it.
No problem. Thank you. Have a great evening. I look forward to seeing everyone on May 12th.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All righty. So now we will move to the draft inland wetlands and watercourse ordinance. I see Donna. And I think I saw Ty. Did I see Ty? Donna is
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. It's mostly alphabetical, the list, but then it goes out of order. So I apologize.
and Paul Yeager is here as well.
Okay, I will pull him onto the spotlight so we can all There's just so many people here. There we go. Hi, Paul. Welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm going to turn the floor over to you and Ty, really, to sort of march us through here.
You want me to start, Paul?
Sure.
Okay, so basically this is where the Wetlands Commission has been working on, drafting this ordinance. It has been vetted by the land use attorney, Attorney Ziska. And it basically takes the general statute, which allows for automatically the fines or penalties for wetlands violations through a court proceeding. And the statute enables also the other option of allowing a municipality to assess those fines as well. So it kind of gives teeth to the regulations that we have without having to go to court for those kind of fines. I think in my memo, I did, kind of note that this isn't, we're not trying to, it's not a money-making venture or anything like that we're looking to do. We're just trying to get a little bit more teeth to these regulations should somebody, refuse to comply or come to, accordance with what is expected. So the draft is out there. It has been vetted by Attorney Ziska. I don't know if you have any questions about it.
I don't, as of right now.
Now it's kind of last minute, and as I understand, you have a hearing process and then it would go to town meeting. So
yeah,
basically all we're asking at this point is that you consider, including this as one of the ordinances that may be part of that hearing process and on the town meeting agenda, whether it be May or a special meeting.
Yeah, so that was sort of going to be my next piece. And I'm sorry, Paul, did you want to jump in? Did you want to add anything?
I don't have much to add to that. I think Ty said it all, but I just want to express that this does give the commission, I think, just a little more authority and respect. It also encompasses not only the owners of the property, but anybody that may be working for them, including contractors, which local contractors should know that if something looks wet, they should be come in to see us. I just think that may help bring more work on wetland areas to light.
Great.
I just have one question about the citations and the failure to pay and all that. Just the payments. Where does that go in the line items in the ledgers? Where would that fit?
So there's two options. The statute allows you to, it would automatically go to the general fund, but also say you had something like a land acquisition fund that you created, you could send it in that direction as well. So the statute enables that. And in the ordinance itself, I think that we've made it very clear that there's those options.
Great.
And who would make that determination? Would that be the Board of Selectmen? Would that be, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Ty. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, we'll read this over. And so that sort of brings me to a thought I had, having this language added to a number of other ordinances that are coming through the pipeline. And I wish Rufus was here because I'd feel more comfortable if he was on the call to make this change, but it just seems that we would now have, for the town hearing and the town meeting, we would have the budget, which is a big conversation, but then also we would have a whole number of ordinances, whether they're new like this one or changes like the tax abatement one. And I'm feeling like we should take, so that each of those topics, ordinances and the budget, get enough time and enough engagement and enough visibility that we should consider moving all of the ordinance matters to a June town meeting. And I don't mean to put Darlene on the spot, just wanted to get your thoughts on if there are any ramifications that we should be careful of in doing that, moving things out that 1 month.
I can't speak to the other ordinances, to the one that was just presented, but the concern about the tax abatement ordinance, if in the event that the Board of Selectmen wants to put it forward, that ordinance has to be approved so that the tax bills can be, the assessor can make the adjustments and the tax bills can be issued. So June would be, and I can ask Jen to chime in if I'm incorrect, but June would definitely be too late to manage that.
Even though word back from the attorney said that the list that we approved in February was the reflects back to the ordinance, which reflects back to the statute that does allow for that, the new maximum of $2,000. Does that make sense? Sorry, kind of.
I believe I understand what you're trying to say. I guess I would disagree with the interpretation of that implying. But if you have something, I think that's definitely something that we can confirm after the meeting. But that was my quick reaction to the concern about a June meeting for ordinance. The time frame about the other ones, I don't know that they would be affected by whether it's, you know, May versus June.
Okay.
I would chime in that I like to get the bills prepared and to quality for printing, at least a 4-week lead time to get them in the mail for the end of June, as they're due July 1st. So I don't, as soon as that mill rate is set, I'm usually ready to go to bills the last week of May at the latest.
Okay. All right, that may change that thinking that I had.
That may.
All right, so we'll just sort of have to keep that in the hopper. For right now, I don't think we can make a motion on it, but just something.
No, I don't want to.
Keep in mind. Okay. The third item that we added was to discuss the regional opioid settlement grant funding, and I'm going to have Leo Gio, did I get it right, or did my 2 years of Italian in college fail me?
You got it.
Oh.
Not many people do, so
Phew, I remembered one thing. My sister got me through those 2 years of Italian when we went to school in the same place. Thank goodness. Thanks for joining us, Leo. We have been talking about this at the COG for many months. There has been a number of federal lawsuits that against a number of different drug companies and now drugstore companies, and the Attorney General has worked really, really hard to press these companies to be accountable for what's going on with the opioid overdose epidemic. And the result of that is some significant dollars that are coming through in a number of settlements. And so I can't remember right this second what our total is for Kent, but in discussions with the COG, I think most towns have agreed that it makes sense to pool this money and to be able to use it for regional uses. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Leo, to pick up there.
Sure. So yeah, just quickly there, the settlement dollars are being paid out. They will be paid out over the course of 18 years. So, each year Kent will get their amount, and what we found was that a lot of the small towns didn't get a substantial amount of funding. So we felt that taking a regional approach would offer a greater impact to the region as a whole, allowing the towns that participate in the pooled funding to have equal access to all of that funding. So there's about 8 towns right now that have already taken it to the Board of Selectmen and have approved it. And we have a couple of projects in mind, some ongoing, some smaller, harm reduction projects, just making sure that there's training available, which there is plenty of training out there, but doing more outreach, working with local EMS, firefighters, and making sure that they have the proper supplies, harm reduction supplies to provide in the event that they need them. So if there's any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. But that's a good summary of the plan.
Great. And so we need to do a resolution, right? Leo?
So we at this point are we're finalizing the MOU. So Rob,
Great. Okay.
Rob, the director at the COG, wants to just get all the responses from all the towns, and then we'll send out the MOU to be signed.
Okay. So we don't necessarily need to make a motion at this meeting. We would make one when we have the MOU ready.
I believe that other Board of Selectmen have made the motion and have already approved it. So, you know, how that's worded, I'm not quite sure, but to my understanding, it has already been approved by a number.
Okay. So not only do the so one of the benefits that the small towns get, and I'm not sure what the like how the allocation percentages worked out, but it was a little bit strange, Glenn, that like places like Barkhamsted got little pots of money, and then other towns that aren't much bigger than Barkhamsted got a lot more money. And the benefit that the little towns, including us, have is that places like Torrington, Winstead, they got much bigger funding pools. And so by pooling all this money, and everything we do for all of this opioid response is all from a regional level. Doing this town by 169 different ways in 169 towns is not the way that this is being done since the program's really started, and through Greenwoods, through all the different regional organizations that help with this. That's really how it's being done. So I think that this is a great way to go to pool this money so we can all benefit from it.
And Barbara wrote in the chat that Kent has received approximately $8,000.
Thanks
for this. So that's good to know.
And this is similar to, I don't know if you all remember from, gosh, I think it was the 80s or 90s, the tobacco settlement money. There were millions of dollars that came into a bunch of states, and it funded a lot of different state programs. It funded a lot of different regional programs. It's a similar thing where it's going to go on and on for a long time. So
Donna has her hand up if you want to take a question.
Yeah, I was just curious, where is the money going to be going and how is it going to be used? I mean, we're talking about getting the money, but we don't seem to be talking about what you're going to be using it for. So I'm just curious.
Sure. So I did develop a committee charter. It's still in the draft stages, but it does outline the committee responsibilities. The opioid settlement funds have they have strict language within the state legislation and federal legislation of how the funds need to be spent. So I would be happy to pass that committee charter along. We haven't developed any specific project plans, I would say, but just as an idea. So for instance, Greenwoods we could potentially use the funding to provide a clinician to be available for all of the towns that participate in the pooled funding, to be essentially on call in the event that somebody is experiencing, they are a substance user and they would like treatment. But that's just one example. I think on a smaller scale, we've also been talking about the possibility of purchasing vending machines for harm reduction supplies and placing them at appropriate places. So not out in the public necessarily, not in front of the grocery store, but at an ambulance barn, at the fire station. And so, places like that where it's accessible, but safe in the same token.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I would also, just for the sake of transparency, say that Torrington and Winstead at this point are not participating. They did receive a substantial amount of money, and but I think in some respect, I think that might be a good thing for the rest of the region, simply because Torrington and Winstead is a different animal, and they require that amount of resources essentially just for themselves to tackle the issue. So in that sense, the money in the regional fund could be much more equally dispersed without them being involved.
Got it. Great.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Leo.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome. My pleasure. If no other questions, I will sign off.
Okay. You don't want to hang out? No worries.
Not this time. Thanks, Gene. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Now we are going to, I believe, dovetail back in. Yes. So now we're going to move on to the agenda, item number 2. I've been able to make my way through a number of the minutes, and I'm not quite ready to wholesale approve all of them, but I think we could probably approve some of them. So Glenn, I don't know if you're okay with me making a motion to approve a few of them.
Yeah, I mean, I could just tell you that I looked through all of them, and I just have I've got an edit on 2.1, the special BOS meeting on February 22nd, and then the last 2, March 22nd and April 13th. But I'm okay to talk about. Yeah, I mean, well, however you want to do this. I mean, and probably just to say that we have a lot of minutes here. If we could agree on some of these to get them off the table, that'd be great.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we approve the March 1st special, the March 13th special, and the March 15th special Board of Selectmen meeting minutes.
I am okay with all 3 of those. Yes.
And I just need a second.
Second.
Thanks. All righty. And I don't have any changes for those.
I don't either.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And do we want to do, because I have a number of changes and some typos in a number of the other ones, but you said there was another one that you were ready to approve.
I mean, I'm okay with the, let's see,
The February 22nd special.
The February 22nd special meeting. The only change I have there was the hold on here. It was the hourly rate, and it had the treasurer's hourly rate at, I think, $445 an hour, and that's probably a typo.
I think that's a typo.
Oh, come on. You don't want to pay me $400 an hour?
Just double checking. Just double checking.
Come on.
So I'm pretty sure that first 4 should be a $sign. I think. I mean, I'm not exactly quite sure what that number should be, but that's what I'm thinking. So
yeah.
Just, you know.
I don't want to get it wrong. Barbara, do you have any recollection of what that, if that was that would make sense, but I don't.
No, I'm not even looking at that. I'm just sort of listening to your meeting, but
okay. So
that perked up my ears for sure.
Glenn, I think we should go back to the videotape on that so we get it right.
Let's hold off on that till we get it right. But
okay.
That was a number that was fairly jarring when I looked at it. So yeah.
Okay, so we'll keep marching along here. I just want to.
Okay, but let's knock off more of these the next meeting, because
yes,
they are piling up here. So and I know a lot of these are special meetings for the budgets, but
yeah.
And the fact that Rufus isn't here too, so that's right.
All righty, so on to correspondence. Social Services submitted a quarterly report. I see Samantha is on the call. I think I saw her on the call. There she is. Samantha, did you want to jump in with anything additional on the report? Thank you so much. I know that you guys have a lot going on.
I don't think I really have anything extra to add to the report. I think
okay.
We summed it up as best we could for that one.
Sure. Got it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then in the folder, there's an email from Jody Bogus about the swap shop at the transfer station. I did get back to her. There, I guess, was a rumor that Rick was going to close down there's an area in front of the transfer station office where he has sort of a swap shop set up where people can drop off gently used items and other people can take them. And he has no intention of discontinuing that. Rick, did you want to jump in with anything else on that?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean,
great.
So that was working on whether to reopen the shed part, but there's always an area there to leave stuff and people will go through it. So
yeah, and I think it's good that it's sort of front and center so that you guys can keep a handle on it and, you know, in case anything happens. But so we did get back to her on that.
Okay. So that was just a rumor. So there was no, okay.
Just a rumor.
Just a rumor.
We did have the Conservation Commission sent us in a letter that's in the folder, but we're going to address that. We'll read it under the topic that it was connected to. And sorry, I lost my place here. I believe next is public comment. I'm going to scan the room. If you can put your digital hand up. I see Teresa's digital hand is up. Hi, Therese.
Hi. Good afternoon. I'm Therese Duncan, Register of Voters here in Kent. And I'm here to speak to you today about the agenda item concerning the request to move the Office of Social Services to the current Office of the Registrar of Voters. I would like to just briefly remind you of the recent history of the second floor offices. The office now occupied by Park and Rec was the Office of the Registrar of Voters and the Treasurer. Following the retirement of Leslie Ferris from the Park and Rec Department, that was about 2 years ago, more or less, the treasurer requested an office move to that office located across from the copy room. Park and Rec was then moved into the office shared by the Registrar of Voters. About February of 2022, which is just a little bit over a year ago, Park and Rec's new director became our office mate. Although Jared was very helpful and a fine person to share the office, it quickly became obvious that the situation was not going to work out. Park and Rec acquired a lot of equipment, such as sporting equipment, landscaping equipment that had gas motors on it, grass things like weed eaters, that type of thing. And this was stored in our office space. One day, an elderly person came into the registrar's office. Our desks were located in the back of the room, and that person had to walk from the door through a maze of equipment, and unfortunately she tripped. Luckily, she was able to catch herself. She didn't fall down, and there was no problem concerning a fall because she didn't fall, but it certainly gave us pause for what the situation might be. About this time, Park and Rec hired an assistant, and it was obvious that there was no room for us in the office. Our office was told that it might be possible for us to move, and that was a very welcomed comment, but it wasn't brought forward by us, but it was welcomed. So after months of uncertainty, we moved to the second floor meeting room. Although Park and Rec was missed, I mean, really missed, it was a relief not to worry about safety issues or the inability to hold a conversation while others are on the phone or holding office conversation. Fast forward to this past Monday afternoon, Jean informed me that there was a request by the Office of the Social Services to take the office that is now held by the registrars. The letter was written on March 24th, but I was only informed of it on Monday afternoon. This was a total and complete surprise to me. I was really very shocked. Your agenda and the letter from Social Services was posted yesterday, and I was able to read the social service letter this morning. It is obvious that the town hall building has outgrown itself. I realize that you cannot make everybody happy, but I hope you will take into consideration our current and projected needs, as well as the inaccuracy of the letter written by social services. It's inaccurate to say that the office, that we use the office only once a week. The letter sent by social services does not portray the reality of what really takes place. The office is used much more than once a week. In addition to the regular office demands, the office space is a hub of activity on any voting day. On election day, we have the election in the meeting room on the first floor. And it's mandated that we have same-day registration. That is held in our office. We frequently have several people at a time waiting for same-day registration. They cast their ballots in our office, and there is a privacy component to voting. Further, the question on the letter's accuracy is that I don't see how the issue of confidentiality is being addressed when there is a mirror image floor plan on the second floor. The side occupied by social services presently is next to the Park and Rec and the supply closet. If that were to change, the proposal would include all the offices in the building which use the second floor copy machine or the shredder services to walk past any clients who may be waiting. And the treasurer's office is also located up there. Looming before us is the early voting bill, which passed last year. Exactly how this will look is being decided right now. We simply don't know what it is going to look like. Presently, there are 3 bills that are being considered. One is for 10 days, one is for 14 days, one is for 18 days prior to any and all elections, special elections, primaries, and referendums. There are many facets to early voting, which will impact the number of people required to staff it, the numbers of hours necessary for any equipment that is deemed necessary by the legislature. My best guess is that the room that we currently occupy will be adequate for early voting, but we simply don't know what early voting will look like. If you vote today to move our office, I just want to inform you that we will need 2 phones. That seemed to be a question in the social service letter. We presently have 2 phones, and when we had the office, which is now the Park and Rec office, we had 2 phones there too. We need 2 computer stations, which we have now, and we had in what is now the Park and Rec room. We have 2 elected officials, one Democrat and one Republican, that share this office along with our 2 deputies. Nothing in our current budget reflects the time that it's going to take to set up the office. Once again, it's less than a year since we moved the office. So I thank you for your consideration and hope that you will give thought to my comments.
Thanks, Therese.
Thank you.
And I see, Donna, you have your digital hand up.
Yeah, I noticed on the agenda that the hiring policy and procedure, which was supposed to have been discussed last month and the previous month, was not on the agenda for this month, when I thought that that's when it was going to be talked about. You know, I would hope that this is not just going to be pushed off and pushed off and pushed off until no decision is made about how people are getting hired in the town hall. If it is, then my recommendation would be to take the policy and procedure manual and just eliminate it in its entirety, as it's never been handled in the same manner for everyone. since it's been in place. So if you're not going to use it, if you're not going to abide by it, then just get rid of it. But I'm hoping that that's not going to be the case. And I hope that this whole hiring procedure is going to be cleared up and adhered to. I know, I guess that's really all. I'm just very, very disappointed in how much time this has taken and why it just keeps getting pushed off. It's like, okay, we're just going to sweep it under the rug until finally the vacuum cleaner comes and sucks it up and it's all gone. So I just was hoping to get an explanation as to why it's not there. Thanks.
Thanks, Donna. And Glenn was going to cover it in his report later in the meeting. It was just removed because we didn't have the draft for the folder. That was the only reason that it was removed. Under
I wrote one and I didn't get it in on time. So so that is on me.
Under tax refunds, we have, I apologize, I didn't get the total here. Give me a second. So I'll make a motion that we approve the 2 tax refunds for a total $295.21.
Second.
Thanks. All those in favor? Aye. Next is the treasurer's report. Barbara still with us? Yes.
Sorry, I don't really have a report. I've been up to my eyeballs just doing day-to-day activity and budget items. So if anybody needs anything from me, I'd be happy to provide it. But at this point, I'm just trying to get ready for the budget hearing and get some information out to the departments.
Great. Thanks, Barbara. Moving on to new business 7.1, the social services request to relocate the office. So this was, Samantha did send this out back at the end of March. We had a number of discussions about it. Joyce and I had a number of discussions about it. We're in the middle of getting a new phone system installed. And I wanted to have a couple of conversations because I had a couple of other ideas about possibilities. And none of those panned out. So that took me a couple of weeks to get through. And we were hoping to have it coincide with the phone changeover so that we were sort of doing the disruption of a new phone system at the same time as this move. And Teresa's absolutely right. There we are at maximum capacity in this building. And it's difficult to navigate where, we can't go outside the 4 walls because those are the walls that we have. So trying to understand and accommodate what is happening in social services and their needs, but also weighing it against this sort of unknown of the early voting bill. And then what also goes into that is and yes, I see Therese more than I used to see her. And there's just more and more that the state is asking of the registered voters, but weighing that against or weighing that with the full-time employee and then 2 part-timers also needing that office space. Plus they have a lot of clients coming in and out. And right now they're waiting out in the hallway. And it's, we want to afford them more confidentiality and at least somewhere to sit while they might be waiting to meet with social services. So that's sort of where things are. I was not anticipating that it was going to be something that the board needed to vote on. It's really an operational decision that we're making based on space and need. And, you know, it's really a soup of things that we have to figure out. So that's sort of where catching you up to date on that, where everything stands.
So yeah, as you know, as people have moved, as programs have shifted and grown, you know, there have been moves in the office there, and we haven't, as a board, had to, you know, vote on something like that. What do we think about this situation? I mean, is there? I mean, I can hear all sides here. There's not enough space, it seems, in town hall. That's clear at this point. We could use some more space, but then we have so many moves that it's just, you know, it just seems to be causing some friction as we go, and you know, and changes have to happen through time sometimes. But it seems like there's been so many changes in such a short period of time that it's a little, there's some friction. So so what do you think? Yeah,
it's tough. I don't see this as, and I'm not being exclusionary. It just seems that I don't think this is something that the board needs to spend a lot of time and having a vote on. We need to work it out with the folks that are here and really do the best we can. We're looking at possibly changing around. You probably have never even realized, but currently in social services, that office, there's a storeroom that's got a door, and it's possible that we could or may need to take that door out and put a door from the supply closet, which is off the hallway, which you may never have realized either. So, and put the door there, so that, because there's certain things that have to be secure from the state standpoint for the registrars of voters. And so that's another consideration that we have to make. So it's not as simple as somebody's making a request and we wave, you know, go to our drawer full of magic wands. There's a lot to consider. So
and you know, and I'm not there on a daily basis, you know, so you are there, and everyone else is there. I will say this, that sometimes schools, organizations, they go through a study where they see how many people use each and every room, and where you know, how much traffic, human traffic there is. Marwood just went through that, and it's interesting to note which rooms get the most traffic and the most people. I'm not necessarily suggesting that we should do something like that for town hall, but you know, which are the biggest rooms in town hall, which gets the most use, how many people? I mean, it just seems like something like that would be helpful, because, as you know, if you move people now, maybe I don't know. I mean, what's the next change? What's the next move? And I think people moving so much, it just again, we need more space, clearly.
Right. And I think if we, you know, found some money to have somebody come in and do an analysis of this building, they would say, you're outgrown. You're outgrown this building by 5 years. You need to put on an addition or get the elevator to go to the third floor. Oh, how I wish we got the elevator to go to the third floor, because there's a whole big area up there that we could have a couple of offices in.
Could the community center house be of any use to any of this? I mean, not necessarily to put a person in there as an office, but is there any way that we can alleviate some of the pressure?
Yeah, they've done, so Park and Rec has worked to move all of their storage out of there so that social services could optimize the space that was being used by Park and Rec. Park and Rec has moved a lot of, or all of their stuff. They cleaned out a lot of stuff, but everything for Park and Rec is basically in the attic now. And from a safety standpoint, I can't imagine, I would not feel comfortable having a department over in the lower part of the community house. There's no windows in those rooms. Those are really storerooms. And just from a safety standpoint, tucked in. The entrance is down, driving around the back. We'd have to have, full surveillance and some way to, in an emergency, be able to have anybody who's over there be in, quick contact with the town hall. It just, the safety piece is really troublesome to me.
Okay.
And then going back to how to, what to do here, the early voting piece is kind of crucial. And while I understand Samantha's needs and with Rosemary and their intern, I'd really like to wait until we see what that bill is going to look like. And again, it's only for, we say it's only for elections, but it's referendums and elections.
Yeah.
And I feel like we should see what that is going to what bill comes out. There's still 3 bills. Darlene, Therese, is it still 3 bills? Have they whittled down anything from? There's
not as far as I know. As far as I know, it's still 3 bills, and nobody really knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, there's sort of a bit of a standoff. There's one group that wants 10 days, one group that wants 15 days, and one that 18 days. Is that what?
Yeah, it's 10, 14, and 18.
14.
And depending upon who you talk to, that's the bill that's going to pass. Whoever's championing whichever bill is sure that their bill is going to pass.
That one is going to be the one. So, I thinking about all of these things, right? So there's so many balls in the air with this decision. On the face of it, it seems, obvious and simple. Just do a quick swap, but it's not. And also the actual doing the swap is not simple. You're talking about all of the technology that needs to get moved, especially with the ROVs. They've got a separate whole IT infrastructure that would have to get swapped over. The phones hopefully should be easy once they're installed, but then furniture, et cetera. So it would be done likely on a weekend. But there's, obviously costs. So there's a lot of decisions, sort of micro decisions that we have to consider.
My main takeaway from Samantha's letter was just the issue of confidentiality. I mean, that's kind of a big issue. How is that? Is that getting tougher with the amount of people going up there? Like, tell me about that. Because that, if we could address that somehow without a move, I mean, that would solve some of this, but I don't know if it can be solved without a move.
Yeah, really. And Samantha, by all means, feel free to jump in. The primary issue is that clients have to sit out in the hallway, basically outside social services and outside Park and Rec, where there can be, not too much activity depending on what Park and Rec is, if he's out doing a program or if he's, doing the fields or whatever, then he wouldn't be in the office, but he may have Tom, who runs the after school program, generally stops by before he goes over to the school. So it's really dependent on the time in the day, but that's the only place for them to sit and wait is right out in the hallway. So it's definitely not optimal.
And if I can chime in really quick for that as well. So we also have the adjoining door, which makes it concerning and difficult. We can hear, anytime somebody is in the Park and Rec office, we are able to hear conversations through, both sides. So we're taking phone calls, we're having clients come in, we're, trying to keep everybody's information as confidential as humanly possible, but it makes it very difficult when we have that joining door and there's, as of right now, we don't have a way to soundproof it any better than, our desks are further back, as far back from the door as we can be. And then having people waiting, I know spring and summer tend to be really busy for Park and Rec. People come in with, signups for the Park and Rec programs. So there's quite a bit of activity on our end of the hallway. So we do have, we'll have clients sitting out there with other people who are waiting for Park and Rec. And it's just made it more difficult.
Not optimal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. We have a hand up, Patricia.
Yes. Yep. I don't know if you can hear us, Patricia. You're on mute.
Hello, Patricia.
And I don't want to get. I feel like we spent a long time here, and don't want to get into a whole more protracted conversation about it.
It's not. I'm not being protracted. I'm offering a service.
Yes.
So
I didn't mean to imply that at all. I was to Glenn.
So, as you know, my husband, Julio Braga, is an architect who specializes in office design. He's done offices for everyone from Google to Amazon to Spotify. I think I could get him to come in and do a walkthrough with you through your offices and give his expert advice on how you may set things up differently if you're interested.
Let's definitely talk offline about that. I'm very grateful. I did not know he did office design.
Yep. For just about everyone big.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll shoot you an email and we can talk offline and set something up for him to give us his pearls of wisdom.
Yeah, I think he does this all the time for people, and he might be very helpful.
As long as Luca comes along, the dog.
I'll send him.
Thanks, Patricia.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we'll, obviously we're going to keep marching through this, and maybe Julio has some amazing insight, which would be great.
He just might. He just might.
Yeah, absolutely. I am always very grateful to those who have that sort of spatial sensibility about them. And obviously he does this as a profession, so he has more than that. Great.
Okay. Great. So I'll tell him I volunteered him.
And we'll be in touch.
Okay.
Thanks. Alrighty, so we're going to move on to 7.2. I want to make sure I'm not missing any of those other items that we added.
I just want to thank Samantha and Therese. Thank you.
Absolutely. And
I hope this all works out somehow for the best.
Thank you.
And Therese, thanks for your honesty. Appreciate that very much so.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, so 7.2, approval of streetscape phase 1 change orders. So we have Patricia, is your hand up as a forgotten hand?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes, it's forgotten.
Thanks.
Ignore it.
So for the other change orders, we've done this housekeeping of where we make them part of the minutes. So Barbara brought it to our attention that we hadn't done those other change orders that we have talked about in the past. And so under 7.2.1, change order number 3, I'll make a motion to approve change order number 3 in the amount of $23,939.86.
Second.
Fantastic. And that was for the DOT directive for the loop detectors. All those in favor?
Real fast. So all of that was done. That work was done in November. So this is way past, obviously. Just to be clear.
Yep. And we had brought it up a couple of times. I don't know why we never had these put on the agenda, but we're trying to take care of them in the same way that we did the first 2.
We definitely did the first two. Certainly number two, I saw that. I was looking at
And
that.
number one, don't forget the curb.
And number one, we talked
Granite
about
curbing. It couldn't come from New Hampshire.
And are there any more out there? This is it, the last change orders?
These
for phase one?
These are, as far as I know, and as far as Barbara and Rick know, this is it.
This is it. Okay.
So we'll vote on that one. All those in favor? Aye, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve change order number 4 in the amount of $13,449.17.
Second.
Thank you. And that one was for the DOT directive that we do the saw cut, that we seal the saw cut joints. All those in, did you have any questions?
We have a hand up from Rick if we want to take.
Oh, hi, Rick. Thanks.
There may be one more coming. The DOT wants something done down by the bridge. So.
Oh, that's right. That we just found out about, like, what was it, 48 hours ago or something?
Yep.
Yeah.
There could be another one. Okay.
Yeah. So Mather and SLR and the town put together a punch list back in November. They're coming, and we knew that they were going to be coming back to do a number of things in the spring. And now DOT, I guess, went out and did some other inspection, and there's something else that they may require us to do. And so thanks, Rick, for that. I forgot about that one.
So change order number 4, again, to state the obvious, was already completed.
Yes.
Okay.
All those in favor? Aye, thank you. And change order number 5, I'll make that motion to approve change order number 5 in the amount of $24,377.30.
Second.
Thank you. And that was for summary. There was some time and material items that at the end of the day, that all had to be put into a change order. And again, these are housekeeping items. Any questions?
No.
Alrighty. All those in favor? Aye. Rick, did you have your hand up, or is it a forgotten hand up? I'm going to assume it's a forgotten hand up. Alrighty. On to 7.2.4, property owner costs for reimbursement, Firefly Inn. Barbara, I thought I saw that in the folder. There it is. So this was for in front of the old, oh, now I've forgotten what it used to be called. Just north, almost to the Congregational Church on the opposite side, the new owners of the home. It used to be an inn. It was called something else. I can't remember. But it's, say that again. Starbucks. Thank you. So they had, when we were well into the construction phase, they had, they were starting their driveway for the inn. And so they came to us and asked, because they had put into the DOT, and Donna, Ty, hop in, please, so that I get this right. They had applied to the DOT for a second curb cut, but hadn't heard back yet. And so that was all sort of converging at the same time that we were trying to, that Mather was trying to get the sidewalk in. And did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so they asked if we would put the sidewalk in with a curb cut in anticipation that they were going to get the approval from the DOT, which we were, we had every indication that they were going to approve that. So Firefly Inn is paying for that change because it requires a slightly different treatment to the sidewalk so that cars can drive over it. as I've probably said a dozen times, as DOT told me, the sidewalks are for the people to walk on, the road is for the cars to drive on. This type of sidewalk where it's a curb cut is treated differently so that it will take the weight of a vehicle. So the cost of that is $2,815, which Firefly in Barbara, am I correct to say that they have already sent us that check?
That's correct.
Great. So we really just need to make a motion acknowledging that work and that the Firefly Inn is reimbursing us for that. Would that be correct way to articulate that, Barbara?
I guess so. Well, however you articulated the first two. This one just seemed to be left off, and yeah, consistency. I'm asking that it be the same.
Yeah.
So in the Google Drive here, in that email, I see the Fife and Drum, Villager, Kent Wine Shop, and then Firefly Inn. So that's the document we're referring to.
Yep.
So the other three we've taken care of. Is that what we're saying? And that just not this one?
We had already made motions on the other three.
Okay.
And this one is we need to make this motion on. Yep.
Okay.
And I don't have what that motion wording was from the previous minutes. It would take me a minute to go figure out which meeting it was. So was somebody hopping in?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So we just need to wordsmith a motion. I believe it was something along the lines of motion to acknowledge that the Firefly in oh shoot, Barbara, if you can just give any pearls of wisdom. I'm headed into motion to acknowledge that the Firefly Inn had the contractor.
I would have to look back at how you approved the other ones, but I think it was something along the lines of you were acknowledging that there was going to be additional work done, and that additional work was at the request of these individual property owners, and that the cost for that individual work would be passed on to them. But I don't have your minutes in front of me from when you did that.
I'm looking real fast. I can't find it quickly.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't think to look up that. It was a little bit of a quirky motion. Motion to acknowledge that additional work completed by the contractor at the request of the Firefly Inn.
Yeah.
How about in collaboration? I don't want to get this motion wrong.
Yeah, I don't either.
Barbara, are you okay if we move it off to, we'll get the wording and we'll move it off to the next meeting?
Fine with me.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to get this wrong. Let's see. Alrighty. The next is 7.2.5, which was added at the beginning of the meeting. That was Kent Town Center reimbursement. So back in the late summer, so pretty much towards the beginning of the project, we met with one of the board members. I think it was the president of the board of directors for the Kent Town Center on the sidewalk during one of our Thursday weekly site walks. And we just wanted to talk with them about how they wanted us to handle the pavers that they have and had installed there. So all along in front of the Kent Town Center, there are those individual pavers, and we were directed to basically remove them as best as Mather could. And they identified a parking space in their parking lot to put the materials. And we did mention that it wasn't going to be, Mather wasn't going to be picking these pavers up by hand, that it would be done with a big machine, and there might be some other, there might be dirt and, materials that would end up in the pile. And then fast forward, so that was done. Obviously the sidewalks were put in. Fast forward to mid-December, I got a letter from the Kent Town Center requesting reimbursement for $1,614.77. Oh, look at Barbara. Thank you. So we'll go back to that. I don't want to lose my thought. That they had to do some replacing of damaged vinyl edging border, removal of broken pavers that were piled into a parking space, and some other minor work, and that they were requesting reimbursement for that work. So when I was able to contact the person who sent me the letter, there was apparently a change in the board of directors. And when I explained to him that we had had this conversation and we did not put it in writing, we had an informal conversation with the person on the sidewalk, basically. And it was that we were going to be, exactly what I told you. And so I talked, and he understood that, but they had already expended these funds. And so they were still asking for, to be reimbursed this money. So I spoke with town council, and he recommended that we just pay this reimbursement, that it didn't make any sense for us to, refuse to pay this and, take a local business to small claims court or anything silly like that. So I'm looking to, and we'll put it in the form of a motion to reimburse the Kent Town Center $1,614.77 for work done secondary to the sidewalk project, so that we can get to a discussion. I just need a second.
Second.
Thanks. So that was the long and short of it. It just seems like there was a lapse in communication from board of directors to board of directors, as they had some succession changes, I guess.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Where are you going to pay this out of?
It would come out of the project money. I would think that would seem to make sense to me, unless you have a more appropriate place for it to come out of.
No, I was just trying to verify.
Yeah, but if you do, you're the money guru, the budget guru.
So I'm sorry, say that again, your motion there?
Was to reimburse the Kent Town Center $1,614.77 for the work submitted secondary to the sidewalk project, I think is what I put down.
Did they provide documentation of that expenditure?
Yes.
And that it was paid?
Yes.
And this is in the meeting folder, or no? Where is this?
No, it's not in the meeting folder. Apologies. I didn't think to put it in there. Sorry. So Barbara, would that be the right place, or should it get paid out of another line? I mean, ultimately we pay it out of the appropriate line, and unless you think we need to add that to the motion.
No, I was just trying to verify what your thought was. I mean, that would be sort of a contingency expense, but I don't think you have any contingency money available.
No, we have a working elevator instead.
Yeah.
I think it would be appropriate for it to come out of the project.
I think for the dollar amount that it is, it's not going to matter one way or another.
Right. Any other questions, Glenn?
So there's no documentation on this one?
Yeah, I have a letter from them.
I have a letter, but
Yep.
not in the.
I did not put it in the folder. You ready to take a vote? And again, I spoke with town council and he said for the low dollar amount, we should just pay the reimbursement. And that's what makes sense. Ready to go ahead. You look like you were thinking.
I would just feel more comfortable if there were documentation. I think that's my only hesitation.
Yeah, I can certainly, get it populated in the folder. It's a very basic, straightforward. I just would hate to put it off for another whole month.
I know, but it just makes me feel uncomfortable not to have documentation for these types of things. But I said that.
So we'll take a vote.
Jean, can't you do a screen share?
It was never digital. It was sent to me in the U.S. Postal Service mail.
So scan it on your scanner and throw it up.
4 or 5 pages, because it has all the, if you want me to take the time to, I have to go in the other room and scan it, and
I'll come get it. Go back to
yeah, this scanner is not, it's grumpy. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So why don't I rescind my motion for the moment so we can keep moving forward?
Okay.
Do you rescind your second?
I rescind my second.
Fantastic. Alrighty. So we'll come back to that once it's in the folder. So we'll move on to 7.3, building inspector contract to expire on 6/30/23. So this is sort of a first first notification that the contract is set to expire at the end of June. I think it would be a good process to, I'll be meeting with Joe Manley to discuss the contract. It needs to go to town attorney. I don't know if he has any needs for any changes in the contract. I know, Glenn, you had said there is some language about the software that we have to make sure that the software that the town is paying for is not going to be his property.
Well, that line 6.
Yep.
So it says that Ed Manley shall provide a required software for the Kent office. So, and with the software changes and with things that are happening there, that may have to be addressed.
Yeah. So I'll talk with Joe, talk with Ty. We'll make sure that wording gets just specified so that we're not in, we don't have any liability on the software that the town is about to, hopefully about to purchase. And then, so we'll come back to that probably at next month's meeting, but we may need to do a special meeting to have any further review.
That's fine.
But I'll schedule a meeting with folks downstairs in land use and building. Lake 7.4 Lake Warramog Wake Boat Informational Meeting, May 1st at 4 p.m. So the 3 chief elected officials in Kent, Warren, and Washington, where we share jurisdiction. Kent has a teeny tiny percentage of that jurisdiction on the lake, but the 3 of us often have conversations about lake issues. We meet regularly with the executive director of the Lake Warramog Interlocal, and really talking about health of the lake and any issues that come up, including traveling around the lake, which has been an issue with speeding in the past couple of years. What has sort of bubbled to the surface this spring. Oh, Barbara, can you email it to me and I can, oh, it's in my scan folder. Sorry. What's come to the surface this year is there are a number of wake boats that are either owned by people or people bring and launch onto the lake that are called wake boats. And what, in a very, very uneducated layperson explanation, is they're boats where they're obviously motorboats, powerboats, and they are able to take on a large amount of water into a ballast, which when they're using them at a higher speed gives them more torque, more speed, but it's also causing some pretty significant issues with if they use their boat in wake boat mode and they're near the shore, it can dredge up the materials and the soil at the bottom of, right on the shoreline, and is causing a bunch of issues. So there's some folks who live on the lake that are part of an association, and we've been talking with their primary point of contact, and they would like to, we're likely going to be looking at an ordinance. So I'll add that to the list, the growing list of ordinances, limiting use of wake boats on Lake Warramog. I think Washington has, maybe Warren has done a very basic draft, but we're not even to that point yet. Where this is really, we're going to be meeting with the association and the Lake Warramog Authority, really just to have an informational meeting to discuss this concept, and this is sort of the first step headed towards a possible ordinance. So that's coming up on May 1st.
Okay.
7.5 is appointment of Anthony Palumbo to Inland Wetlands. So Inland Wetlands Commission, sorry. So this is to correct a technical oversight, and the commission's attorney has requested that the appointment be recorded as of today's meeting. So I will make a motion to accept the recommendation from Donna Hayes and the Inland Wetlands Commission and appoint Anthony Palumbo to the open inland wetland alternate position with a term date ending December 21, 2023.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or?
How long has he been on the wetlands?
Donna or Darlene, was that June?
Since 2021.
I'm sorry. Thanks, Ty.
Thanks. Okay.
Alrighty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And Lynn, I just saw a note pop up. It's going to be virtual, and it's at 4 p.m. Alrighty, and so let's go back. Let me shoot that document into the correct folder here.
What's the title of this coming in?
It's going to be called Kent Town Center.
Okay.
Hang on one second. It's a little difficult to find our scan folders on the web interface of Google Drive. Alrighty, I'm gonna do this a different way. Sorry about the wait. Alrighty. Hopefully we can loophole this. I wish there was like music on hold.
Don't ask me to sing.
Yeah, don't ask me to sing either. Ooh, definitely not. All right, there we go. All right, if anybody who's in the folder, they refresh it, it's going to be all the way at the bottom. And I can put it on screen share if you like, Glenn.
Yeah, why don't you do that as well?
Okay, give me one.
Yep, I see it. It's in.
Sorry. Worse. Hang on one second. Okay, finally. All right, hopefully everybody is seeing my Adobe Acrobat.
Yep, I see that.
Kent Town Center. So this was the sort of wrap up of what they have done. I apologize. This may not have been done yet. I'm gonna, you know what? We're not gonna make a motion on this because I thought that was done. At the end of the day, they're asking for it to be done, so we could, but it appears that there were those two expenses that were not done that he had quotes for. Sorry, I'm trying to get two pages to come up at the same time. So it was $350 and the $850. So these two had not been done. Replace vinyl edging along Route 7 for Kent Town Center, delivering machine, removing debris left by new sidewalk construction. again, I think it really all comes down to are we going to, we have to decide if we're going to decline what hasn't been done.
Well, what has been done, the first two items you said?
Yeah, this 414 and 77 cents.
That's been done.
That's what it appears. Yeah, it's been a while since I looked at this letter. Sorry about that.
But the last two have not been done.
Correct. As far as I know, I would have to check back in with him. I have not been in that parking lot to even take a look to see if the materials are still there.
I would say we hold off until we get more information.
Okay.
But we have this. I mean, at least, yeah, This is good to see. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Barbara.
Certainly. All right. We're going to go back to, we moved the deep grant. So that's no longer there. The new 7.6 is going to be the Homeland Security Grant Program blanket resolution. So this is an annual resolution that we have to submit to the COG for the COG towns to participate in the Homeland Security Grant Program, which is a regional program. And we participate in the regional emergency planning team, and that's one of the organizations that that uses this funding. There is some that the COG uses, but it's again another housekeeping item, and that is in the folder probably under 7.7. Should have been in the folder.
7.7.
Oh, it's 7.6, sorry.
6.
And it comes directly from the COG, from the department, the Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. It is a template, and there's specific language that has to be included. So I basically put it into a PDF and change the dates so they match our meeting date and the 27th, when hopefully I will walk this down to Darlene and have her do her magic on it. And that's pretty much all I change. It's a requirement of the grant for us to be able to access the funding. Again, total housekeeping. So I'll make a motion to approve or adopt the Town of Kent resolution authorizing participation in the state of Connecticut Homeland Security Grant Program.
Second.
Thank you.
So how much funding is available for this, do you think? I mean,
I don't know. And it's not, again, it's a regional disbursement. So we can put in for projects. And I'm actually hoping in the next, maybe this year, that we would put in a project. There are, I think it goes back 5 federal fiscal years that there's still funding hanging out. So there is, I couldn't tell you how much money is in that pot right now.
and this is this a one-time grant, or is this like recurring? I mean,
it's recurring.
Recurring.
Yep. And it's a pass through from the feds to Demis to the COG to us.
Do you have any idea what other towns, what kind of disbursements they get?
Again, it's not a town disbursement. It's a regional disbursement.
Yep.
And again, this is totally housekeeping. This enables us to actually apply for some of the grant funding. So if we don't pass this and we don't get this back to them, we are not eligible for the grant funding. It's it's a deliverable of the grant.
Yep. And what role does our emergency management have with this? Do they have a role at all? They would be the
the group that would be able to apply for funding. It's emergency, you know, it's for emergency management, meant for emergency management activities, projects, if we wanted to do a drill, some of the regional money through the REPT that it's been spent on in the past. So regional, a lot of this we benefit from at the regional level. We've gotten the variable messaging signs, those big signs that we use like during COVID testing over at the transfer station. I think the last couple of years they've bought barricades, like roadway barricades. Early on, probably 5 or 6 years ago, there was a big move to buy license plate readers for law enforcement agencies. So there's a lot of different opportunities there.
Okay.
So we'll take a vote.
Yep.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. All righty, moving on to old business 8.1. I meant to take this off because we're not quite ready for prime time. It's just to update that policy to get the Juneteenth on there and to clean up some of the language. So we'll that'll be on for next month. Swift House 8.2, Swift House needs assessment update. So at the Board of Finance meeting, there was discussion about, so that needs assessment cost, the $13,900, had not been included in the 24 fiscal year budget. And the Board of Finance voted to add that funding into the 23-24 budget for consideration at the hearing and then town meeting. And I have, I contacted all of the references that they included, that Silver and Petrocelli included on their project proposal. And I've heard back from 2 of the 3. So once I get that third one, I'll just aggregate all of that and get it in a document out, and just for informational purposes, so we can know that we continued on the loop with that.
Great.
On 8.3, the right to farm ordinance, written request for opinion from William and Melissa Brazelin. So at the Conservation Commission meeting, their most recent one, we had a good discussion on sort of where I was with the procedure. So the plan was to write up a procedure or protocol for the Board of Selectmen to have, so that we treat this the same way every time, regardless of who's on the board, and to give a little bit more standardization. So in discussing that, the commission sort of brought to light that there is some language in the ordinance that could be cleaned up. And so to add to the list.
In the right to farm ordinance, you mean?
Yeah, yep, in that right to that section. And we got a letter from the chair of the Conservation Commission that she asked to have read into the record. So I will do that. Kent's right to farm ordinance, please read this letter into the record. Dear Selectmen Spector, Ram, and Sanchez, in 2015, the town of Kent, upon recommendations within its plan of conservation and development, with the endorsement of the Planning and Zoning and Conservation Commissions and the Board of Selectmen, and after review by Kent's town attorney, adopted a right to farm ordinance with the purpose and intent to promote and advance the town's stated policy to conserve and protect agricultural land and to encourage agricultural operations and the sale of farm products within the town, and reduce the loss of agricultural resources by limiting circumstances under which any such operation may be considered a nuisance. How ironic that the 2 times since 2015, the ordinance has been raised publicly, both within the past year, have been attempts by non-farmers to hoodwink town leadership into taking action against farmers, action which couldn't even be taken within a dispute between non-farming residents. Simply stated, Kent's right to farm ordinance offers protection to the farmers for things that might otherwise constitute an appropriately raised nuisance claim. Kent, having no noise or blight ordinance, doesn't offer any resident the opportunity to have our Board of Selectmen play King Solomon when they disagree with their neighbor on noise or how they keep their yards. In the event Kent did allow this kind of complaint, right to farm precludes such an opportunity when the person making noise, odor, or with farm equipment or buildings on their property is a farmer. You can easily see how, paradoxically, the Board of Selectmen's intervention, indeed their very entertainment of the last two complaints, does farmers double jeopardy by erroneously considering them subject to a non-existent nuisance ordinance and then forcing them to participate in a vague sort of mediation-like balancing of interests prohibited by the right to farm ordinance because of the farmer's farm and farming. Last Wednesday, April 19th, First Selectman Jean Speck asked the Kent Conservation Commission during its regular meeting to revise the right to farm ordinance to clarify how it is meant to operate and when the Board of Selectmen should properly accept a complaint. We plan to discuss this revision at our May meeting. If we reach a consensus that revisions should be made, we will forward to Planning and Zoning and to the Board of Selectmen our recommended changes and rationale. Therefore, we respectfully request that the Board of Selectmen stay for their action on the matter until that time. And we had a really good conversation because trying to put this letter together that we had talked about at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, there were, in reading the ordinance, there were a lot of vagaries and a lot of is this really in our purview sort of questions that kept coming up in my mind. So we had this conversation at the Conservation Commission meeting, and Connie very nicely articulated sort of where we go from here. So that's sort of where we are at this point. And I think if, again, this sort of checks the box for the moving of the growing list of ordinances to June. But I'll loop back with Connie because she didn't know about this thought in my head when she sent this letter in. So I can let her know that we're at least thinking about it, and maybe I'll do some more looking into the tax abatement ordinance and where we go from here. But any questions?
Okay, so they're requesting a stay of further action. So meaning we are going to not act on that original complaint right now.
I think that's really the wisest course of action to take. I had a conversation with the farm owner, and he indicated that he was going to, do his best to not have machines running at night and accommodate, the concerns and complaints that the person had. And I think that, we should hold off writing a letter. Again, I was struggling with how to articulate our role in this whole process because it is vague in the ordinance. I did get a phone call from Quinnipiac University after, I believe it was our last monthly meeting. Their law school has a mediation program, and they reached out to me via email, and we had a Zoom meeting a couple of weeks ago, and it was really interesting. So they run this program that's funded by the USDA, and it offers services to towns, to people, where if they have a question about farming, right to farm models, right to farm ordinances in their own towns, that they can seek out some guidance, seek out information sharing, and it was interesting what they offer. So that was actually, when they reached out, I thought that would be a great resource to include in this process or protocol that I have a draft of, but I'm obviously holding off on it until we get the ordinance piece worked out. But they were very willing to, be open to talking to anybody, and so I think it might be great to add this organization to our website to just to have it as a resource for people. So yeah, it was interesting. Who knew that there's another, little tiny part of the USDA that provides funding for this mediation program that's available to people in Connecticut.
Thanks for finding that. I mean, mediation is the first word that comes to mind when something like this arises. And I think I was clear at the last meeting, how I felt. But Jean, thanks for reaching out to
well, they found us. They found us. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's somebody out there in the sphere that we need to thank for connecting them to us, but they found us and reached out. So yeah, it was a good conversation to have.
Okay. All right. So so I'll go by this recommendation of the Kent Conservation Commission. So
yeah, do we want to make a motion to take their recommendation? I'll make a motion to take the recommendation of the Conservation Commission and stay the current right to farm issue that is on the table with the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Thanks.
Okay. So this will be on, do you think this can be, you think this can be resolved anytime soon? I mean, in terms of
let me reach back out to Connie now that we've read the letter and see what comes next from her end.
Okay. Because we also don't want this issue to to percolate to to moving forward. I think all parties would like to know where we stand ultimately. So I was all ready to make a decision tonight. So this is so I'm okay.
And I can reach out to both parties and let them know, sort of give them an update of this is where we are on everything. So I'll shoot them an email just so that they have some visibility on the process and the progress of what's going on.
That would be great. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. We have a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next is 8.4 draft updated tax abatement ordinance, which is in the folder. And is John, now everything is out of alphabetical order. There he is. John Russell, I'm going to add you to our spotlight if you don't mind. And we received the new draft back from town council. It's in the folder. Sorry, I had a couple of people apparently that were coming into the meeting. And I think, John, you noticed two pieces that may need a second look from town council.
Yes, there's a few things I wanted to mention, and then I don't know if we're going to be able to really wrestle on them without Randy here. But maybe would it make sense for me to kind of list off some of the things that we've caught?
Yeah, I'm about to pull it up on screen share. If you give me 1 second. I think I have it in a great spot. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Great. Okay. All yours, John.
Okay, well, I'll just start from the top and just work my way down through and try to summarize. Under number 2, third line under number 2, it's the department would need to submit a list certified under oath. And I think there was some question, why is that necessary? And do we really need to do that? How many lists are submitted to the town that need to be under oath? Under number 3, that's kind of the big one, because the language still says, third line makes the reference to of the listed eligible volunteers in an amount determined by the Board of Selectmen. And then the added language that I do recall us discussing was in consultation with the KVFD Personnel Committee, not to exceed the amount. So that highlighted added language, I do recall us discussing. It was my understanding, I don't think just my understanding, that the wording right before that, determined by the Board of Selectmen, was going to remain in there. You also don't see that in the New Milford language, as far as I can tell. Moving on down to 3B, first line. Any person eligible for such tax abatement each year may accept or decline. The original language, or should I say the existing language, is may decline the tax abatement by March 1st. Adding the word accept, I believe, means that the volunteer responder or veteran responder will not get the abatement unless they take some kind of action every year. Number 4, we have some significant conflicts just in the wording. I don't think it's going to be much of an issue, but the Personnel Committee, it's not really the place for the Personnel Committee to make changes to the SOP 1-7. We have a long process, thorough process in the department in order to change an SOP. Glenn, so sorry you haven't had to live through that.
It's okay. Bring it.
But it involves at least one, usually 2 committees, and then approval by the membership. So my suggested wording for Randy might be, in the event KVFD membership intends to, maybe, I don't see why we need the word materially. I suggest removing that, but so in number 4, Personnel Committee is referred to 4 times, and we would need that changed to membership.
In number 4.
Number 4. Also in number 4, right at the end of the blue highlighted section, I'll start the I'll read the last sentence of the highlighted section. Following such meeting, the KVFD Personnel Committee shall submit by delivery of hard copy or an email of the amended SOP to the Board of Selectmen within 30 days. And I think we may need to go with 60 days in order for our process to happen.
Oh, and that's
because we would need time for the tax abatement committee to move it to our SOP committee, for our SOP committee to meet, the SOP committee to move it to the executive committee, and then the executive committee to move it to the membership. We don't kid around with our SOPs.
You don't.
So that's kind of a list of suggested changes and concerns. And I would think that the chair.
I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your
May
thought.
want to pick and choose, but certainly our greatest concern is number 3, the existing language in number 3. We would really like to, excuse me, I'm just going to mute. We have a call going out, but I can remain.
Okay. So on the last one, and I replaced the following such meeting, the KVFD membership, or it can just say the KVFD shall submit by delivery of hard copy or an email of the amended SOP to the BOS within 30 days of adoption of the amendment by KVFD members. So the way that I'm understanding that language is once the KVFD approves it, so it's already gone through all of your other.
Okay, so that gives us 30 days upon the membership approving it.
After the membership.
After the membership approves it. Yep.
So that does that work?
It works. Yep.
Okay.
Good catch.
And Darlene, by all means, you've been a one of the important architects here. Didn't we change that automatic approval at the end of 35 days? This this sentence that I just highlighted right there.
No, that's what Randy referred to, that we did discuss this past meeting about I think he called it the pickle vote.
What did he call it?
I thought was it a pickle vote?
I think it was. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds.
No, it's just so that you can't delay something to be actually addressed by the Board of Selectmen, so that if you wanted to affect the way the vote went, and that's why that was a mandatory time frame. So it was necessary, and he advised that it had to be kept in there.
Okay.
Gene, Allen here, and yes, I agree with Darlene. If the Board of Selectmen decides that they do not approve of changes, then they need to, go on the record and vote no to the changes if they should happen, and then that way, a change that is approved can be done and move forward for all parties.
Okay. So, Glenn, I think because there are a couple of questions that we need to ask back to town council, that we should do that and not take any action on this. John, if you can, so the first one was the under oath. You had a question about that.
Yeah.
Where did that go? There it is.
That's number 2.
Yep.
And Gene, I believe when I asked that at the last meeting, Randy said that it would just be notarized.
Notarized, right.
As I recall, that's what he said.
Yeah.
So because I was concerned what under oath meant, other than, when I've had to testify or whatever, you raise your right hand and you say, you do that before a notary, or you do that, you know what I mean, whatever it may be. But then I didn't know how you notarized an email.
Right.
But I'm not, I was just wondering how that happened in this particular case, just to make it easier for everyone to get everything in instead of more difficult.
And so, yeah,
so it's just a question to if that is, and if it is that straightforward and simple. I think John's question is, what other stuff is submitted that way? Is it something that is really needed? And then if so, fine. But if not, why make an extra step or hurdle for everybody to go through?
Mm-hmm.
And then regarding as what John was referencing, number 3, which I know was a lot of discussion before, and this was some working through. Remember, there was a lot of time between Rufus on this, whether it was in number 4, number 3. And I think even Darlene was starting to try and ask a question about if the legislative body is already doing this, meaning by this motion and by a change in the SOP, or rather not the SOP, a change in the ordinance. So they're making this motion. Why would it have to happen annually? I could be wrong there, but I think it's important for the selectmen to have the law in front of them. It's section 12-81X, or excuse me, 12-81W. And, it says specifically municipal option to abate or exempt a portion of property taxes of local firefighters and certain emergency and civil preparedness personnel. The legislative body of any municipality may establish by ordinance a program to provide property tax relief for a non-salaried local emergency management director, any individual who volunteers his or her services as a firefighter, fire police officer as defined in subsection A of section 7-308, emergency medical technician, paramedic, civil preparedness staff, active member of a volunteer canine search and rescue team as defined in section 5-249, active member of a volunteer underwater search and rescue team, or ambulance driver in the municipality, or any individual who is a retired volunteer firefighter, fire police officer, or emergency, it goes on and on and on. So my question is that you are the legislative body. He made that very clear, the Board of Selectmen. So you are moving this forward. The legislative body of any municipality may establish, which is what you're working on here, by ordinance, and you're proposing it as an ordinance. So you're doing all that process and establishing what that would be. I don't understand why you have to do this once it's done, and where he's talking about how the dollar amount that you've established by ordinance would change. And the dollar amount that you're establishing in this ordinance, meaning proposing, is that it follows state statute. So again, I just don't understand the thinking there or the following of that.
So I apologize. So what specifically is the question that you want us to get addressed? And can somebody just make sure that I'm articulating that note that's up on the screen right now for the under oath, that we'd like the necessity of a notarized requirement revisited?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna close that. Sorry, Alan.
That's okay.
So what was your specific question that you want readdressed, Alan?
In number 3, it says abatement of property taxes for those eligible volunteers set forth on the list submitted to the Board of Selectmen shall be applied against property tax bills asserted as of October 1, grand list of the listed eligible volunteers in an amount, it says, determined by the Board of Selectmen. I thought above we established that the amount would be in accordance with the Connecticut General Statute. Isn't that what it says up in number 1 of this?
Yeah.
Now I understand clearly, as I just read in the statute, that this whole process has to be done by the legislative body, which is the Board of Selectmen, which is what you're doing. Thank you very much. And then you can only do it by town ordinance, which is what you're doing, which is what was done many years ago by the legislative body of the town, and by ordinance, and by the by ordinance where it goes to the voters.
And Jean, can I just piggyback that? Because as far as you're on number 3, if in the event, as far as what Don and Alan have suggested, to remove in an amount determined by BOS, as I support that, we have already talked about it. It's defined by the SOP on what the dollar amounts for the members and or veterans get. If you remove that, then it really doesn't, I don't understand even the part that's in blue still, why that has to be there. Because you've already established in number 1, in an amount not to exceed the amount as may be authorized by the statute. To me, that continuation of the sentence doesn't make sense. The list that they're providing, that they're referring to number 1 and number 3, is a list of eligible members. It has nothing, in consultation with, they've already done their practices of reviewing point structure, making the list. So I disagree with the continuation of that sentence to be included in number 3, and looking for somebody to chime in.
Sure. I agree also. It's confusing. It does not seem to parallel what I thought we ended up with at our last meeting. My understanding of the outcome of our last meeting was reflected more in number 4, where it talks about our collaboration when we go into topics of modifying SOP 1-7. That was something that Alan indicated a willingness to consider.
So I just want to make sure that I get this right for town council. Darlene, can you help me, or anyone can, John, Alan, Glenn, can you help me just wordsmith this part? I have that last clause that you just mentioned, Darlene.
So
related.
Only because Randy was in his conversation referring to the New Milford ordinance. The New Milford ordinance even defines just when do they submit this list. The fire chiefs of the department and the president of the ambulance shall submit to. Now, again, their positions of who they submit it to are different than the town of Kent. Yep. A list of members of their respective organizations who are eligible as defined in, which is, they refer to the part of their ordinance above. All they talk about is they submit the list. It's not in consultation. There is no consultation. You've already agreed upon the SOP and how the department is going to measure how to put that list together. You've already agreed upon that. The authority of the Board of Selectmen have done so. So they're providing a list. They're just filing a list, and it's been done in conjunction with what guidelines the department is agreed upon and the Board of Selectmen. I don't understand what the word consultation has anything to do with the filing of the list.
I see your quandary there, Jean, because you're maybe looking to us to provide language that we would like to see in there. I'm truthfully not really equipped at this time.
No, not necessarily. I just was looking for some sort of note on this discussion that would wrap up for town council. So when he looks at this document, he can hover and go, oh, okay, this is what, and I would have a conversation with him, obviously, but just to make sure that I get this all articulated in a note.
Agreed.
I think the question to town council is, why can't the paragraph just end that grand list of the listed eligible volunteers, period?
So is that, because I wanted to highlight what we'd like him to consider removing. And so
the whole amount after volunteers,
right?
Remove in an amount.
Oh, after volunteers.
Yes.
Okay.
Remove that whole part of that section.
So I thought you were talking about just this blue section.
No. Nope. The whole amount.
All right. But Darlene, I wouldn't be surprised if Randy would insist on the not to exceed amount.
But it's already defined in paragraph one.
Right.
Right. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And Darlene articulated that better than I did, that it says in paragraph 1 what it is. Why would you say it again and almost add some confusion to it? It's already there.
It's almost implying as if the list has some other jurisdiction of dollar amount to be implied.
Mm-hmm.
And that should not be confused. The SOP is defined, the amount is defined by the approved SOP, period. There shouldn't be any
And by the
gray area
statute.
about the filing of the list.
It's just
there's no negotiation about the dollar amount.
Right.
If it says member, it's 2. If it says veteran, it's 1.
Right.
At this time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And for a moment, I thought you were talking about this instance of volunteers, but you're talking about after this one, the second one. So this whole thing.
That's correct.
Okay.
After the grand list of the listed eligible volunteers, period.
Okay. Give me 1 second. So we are going from here all the way down.
And I think, as the previous ordinance has said, and as this, updated ordinance would say, that again, when that anything changes, it has to be done or agreed to by the legislative body and or an ordinance change.
Okay.
And if the SOP change does not satisfy the Board of Selectmen,
that's the
they vote no.
Reject it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then, so just quick, going back to the couple of spots where it shouldn't say personnel committee. You said there were a number of times. So this one comes out too, down at the bottom of 4 here.
Yeah, I mean,
delegation there
if
from.
you think KVFD adequately does the trick, it would read, in the event KVFD intends to amend SOP 1-7, the notify Board of Selectmen in writing of its intent to amend so as to consult and collaborate with the Board of Selectmen on the intended amendment.
Right, but it wouldn't be the personnel committee, would it? Or
yeah, but personnel committee can't touch the SOP.
Right.
Change. Yeah.
Right. So this should say the KVFD.
Yeah. Yeah. Any change, material or not. And I just think material invites maybe, multitude of interpretations, and so why not just say.
And similar to that is, what happened when this change did go through its process. We found a typo, so we wanted to make sure you were aware of that. So nobody, material wasn't even in there, but it takes out even of the presumption of whether it's material or not. You know what I mean? There was a typo. So some people could say that typo caused a material change. Some people may say it didn't. So I agree completely with John, is that it should just say a change. If there's a change, you guys better know about it, and you better get the information. Whether I'm here, John's here, no matter who's here, it better go through its process and go through the legislative, body.
Glenn, you're good with removing or suggesting sending, when we send this back, taking that back out?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. And this was another instance where it shouldn't be personnel committee. It should just be KVFD, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the same paragraph, I've got just one question. It says the BOS or a delegation therefrom, and the KVFD personnel committee and so forth. So a delegation therefrom, is that suggesting a subcommittee? What does that suggest? I don't know if that's needed.
Well, my interpretation is that you guys would be able to delegate that duty to meet with us.
I would just say the BOS and the KVFD membership delegates, membership shall meet within 30 days.
Yeah. Because I think as a board, it should be a board discussion, not a one person discussion.
It should be a board discussion. It should not be one or two people.
Yeah.
And we don't even use the term delegation in town language, right? I mean, we're commissions and subcommittees and boards.
Well, I think the intent was like a subgroup of the Board of Selectmen, which to me means one or two, but that I think that's
just don't think it's needed.
Yeah. And I think for visibility and transparency, it should be a board discussion.
Yes, I agree.
So for sake of that, we're on number 4 and just becoming a broken record about this, I just like to be on record that I find that this whole initial part of this paragraph number 4 is unnecessary, because ultimately when the fire department goes to amend their SOP, they're going to go through their process, just as John and Alan have referred to. They're going to go through their different steps, their different committees. Their membership is going to approve the suggested SOP. And at that time, it's going to come to the Board of Selectmen. I don't understand the necessary intent of having a timeline and a defined discussion that has no weight ultimately, it has no weight to what the fire department may approve and submit in the final end. They may not agree with that conversation. They may go ahead and submit an SOP that totally is different than what you've even discussed. So why not allow the fire department to manage their side, which is the SOP, and submit it as such, so then it then becomes the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen to discuss. And if we really look at the document, I could be wrong, but the main concern that the Board of Selectmen are going to look at the SOP is the dollar amount change. You're not going to weigh in on the point structure, the meeting attended versus the certifications or the courses. It's when the statute changes and the dollar amount gives different authority to what the town can abate. So I'd like to just be on record that I think that this is an added step that's not necessary, that potentially, you don't know when the statute's going to change again, and maybe it won't be for another years that we'll have a meeting like this. But I think it's an unnecessary step to what the process already is in effect and allows.
Okay, I think Randy, his reasoning for this was to continue to build that improve that relationship, build the relationship between the board and the fire department, and gives almost like an earlier notification that there's an intent to change their SOP. And who knows if the fire department came back with an updated SOP, completely different set of executive committee members came in and decided that the points should be, vastly decreased, which would vastly increase potentially the number of eligible members. That would be something that I would definitely want to be having a discussion about. I would think any board member, because that would, be affecting how much we're abating.
I think you're causing a potential of preliminary angst to say that you're having these discussions where the fire department has not vetted their part of it as far as what their membership and their committees agree on. You have these conversations that you're now going to hold as public meetings, because that's the only way the Board of Selectmen is going to be able to do these.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to weigh in with a decision because it's not even going to be an approved SOP.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think
if we go down the process and again, in hearing your initial reasoning, I don't think an ordinance should be built to develop relationships. I think relationships come with the respect that an outside agency has with the positions and as Board of Selectmen. I think that the John Russell, Alan, Eric, or whomever have proven that through conversation and dialogue, they would do this anyway, but to have it be intentionally put as part of an ordinance as if there's some weight in it, that if it's not done, what happens? So what happens if they don't contact you? You're still going to get an approved amended SOP to discuss. So I've said my case.
I'm just looking to add. Oh, I have to. It's a little bit of a broad question, but I wanted to just plop it in there. And I didn't want to highlight on top of highlighting on top of highlighting. Are there any other, did we miss any spots where personnel committee needs to be removed?
Double check.
Can I make a suggestion as well?
Sure.
On 3B, person eligible, could we just do without that whole first sentence and just assume that when they submit their list on January 31st, that it include those who want to accept that abatement, or have some sort of mechanism right on the list that if for some reason they want to decline, it's submitted to me right off the bat with that already on there.
So removing.
Yeah, I don't know where March 1st seems like an arbitrary date. I mean, just give me one list, January 31st, that's approved, ready to go.
Oh, instead of the list goes in on January 31st, and then you're getting another list of those who've declined on March.
Exactly.
So I'm just want to weigh in with
have them already have made that indication that they wish to decline, and they be crossed out on the list. So we see they're still an active member who are entitled, but for whatever reason don't want it.
I know that it's a really compressed time frame that the fire department has, but I'm going to defer to John and Alan on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, compressed is the word that it's. Was very close to bringing up the topic of January 31st, but I know everybody's busy, and January is a very challenging administrative month for the department because of transitions and starting things anew again. But I wasn't, and I'm still not necessarily suggesting we change the January 31st date. But I think it sounds like is being suggested is that the department would need to hear from every member eligible for the abatement as to whether or not they wanted to decline the abatement, and that the deadline would be January 31st. I think that's something we could do. We would certainly submit what we have. Those members who failed to make the January 31st deadline to say I don't want the abatement may have to go another route. I'm only speculating because I wasn't part of the construction of this SOP originally, that the March 1st deadline gave people, eligible people, the opportunity to decline the abatement in case there were potential appearances of conflict of interest, or for whatever reason they might not want it. So
Okay.
it is something we can do. I'm interested in what makes less work for us, but also I am interested in what would make less work on your end.
Well, I mean, I just thought it would make it easier. We didn't want to go back to that. I know when I worked in the tax office, we sent out those letters every, whatever, I guess it was February then, to ask whether, and then we did away with that. So.
Right.
And if I could ask, was there, when you stopped doing that, was there any consequence of substance when you stopped sending out the letters?
No, I don't believe so, but I wasn't in the decision-making process of that. I was just administratively doing it and then stopped doing it.
Jen, would it, to talk about finding a possible sweet spot, would it make a difference if we put that, instead of March 1st, we made it February 15th, or your thought process is really to get rid of that the two list process?
Yeah, that was my intention. I don't, it's just because I was piggybacking off of that January 31st deadline for the list. I didn't realize there were, some people that may or may not wanted it and needed that extra time. I didn't realize that part of it.
And that's a piece of data I have no information on, because, and I have no idea whether that's public or not. I do know that those who are eligible for the abatement is public, and I've just never taken an interest in who actually took advantage of the abatement.
Jen, do you have any sense, and I just loose numbers of how many people decline?
In the time I was doing it, there was only one. And it was the same one.
Okay.
But he's since passed, so.
So I think we have because we're not going to take any action tonight, I think there's a little bit of time to consider that. John and Alan, maybe take that back, and I wonder if there's anything that you can build into your process where annually members have to notify the department if they would be declining, and then you would be able to have that information ahead of time. I don't know. I'm not trying to add any work to anybody, but it may be that.
Yeah, truly, if you want to submit the list, and I assume all have accepted unless they notify me. I mean, it's asking for my procedure. So basically somebody just notify me no later than the March 1st is fine. I didn't want to make it more difficult for everybody else. That's all.
My only thought is that, the administrative changeover there's a certain amount of that in the department, and that if it's not incorporated into SOP on our end, kind of instructing us to do that, it would be inconsistently done then.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so what we do now that brings up the subject of yet again revising the SOP.
What's in the SOP now?
No instructions other than providing the list to the town by January 31st.
Okay.
Debbie's frantically waving her hand, so I'm gonna. have her jump in.
I think what they're trying to say when they include you adopted by the assessor of the town of Kent is your real assessing ability. They're looking to see whether the people they have put on the list actually exist on a list. That's what they're asking you as the assessor to clarify. Yes, they have property in Kent that they can take off. That's what that sentence means, which is different than asking the people if they want to become, if they want to come off the list. There is a distinction. And that's the distinction that we used in the very beginning when we did this. So that's my 2 cents. But no, while we're here, just getting to a timeline, and I know you haven't gotten there yet, but since I'm talking to you now, the timeline, I know the treasurer needs a dollar amount to help set the mill rate. So I don't know whether you need to do this before the public hearing or wait until after the public hearing when the assessor can come up with a mill rate, when the treasurer can come up with a mill rate. So that's my 2 cents. I'm out.
Thanks, Deb. So do we think that this, how do we want to proceed with this sentence?
Which one?
The one that I just highlighted, the one that Jen Dubray had brought up.
Number 3.
3B. So I'm sorry, Debbie, to bring you back on. Are you saying that this language does not mean that someone who wants to decline the tax abatement has to notify the town? That it means something different?
It means, in my mind, it meant originally, has the assessor put this property on the grand list? Does the property exist? If there's no property that exists, you can certainly put the person on the list. I'm not saying that, but they're not going to get a benefit because there isn't one there to benefit from. That's what that date meant to me.
No, I read it to be about accept or decline the tax abatement.
Yeah, so do I.
Oh, okay. All right. Going back to, then definitely don't do that because it was a muddle. We ended up with folders of papers, which we still have. And if somebody forgot, you had to find them. And,
right.
You know,
right.
No, we don't do that anymore.
Right. Right.
Gene, if I can step in for just a couple comments.
Sure.
I appreciate Jen's idea of trying to streamline things and make one list, but I think that it should be that if they do want to decline it, it would be something that the individual would make as an individual decision between themselves and the tax, assessor, between them and Jen's office. So I think it should stay with just decline, like it was in the current ordinance, the way it is. And then if they do want to make that decision for their own reasons, they do that, in consultation with her. And
right.
Then it's
that sounds fine. Decline by March 1st or something like that.
Yes, exactly. I believe that's what it was. Additionally is we submit, a list for those people that are eligible. And one of the things that we did when we made the last, not this most recent change, but the change before that, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, was that we made it a little more difficult for members previously that were on to be on the list. So it's important that a member, they have to be on this list, or if we encourage them to participate, to go to calls, all that incentive to make the list. Because remember, they have to get it continuously out in the future. they have to have 15 plus years of, a minimum of 15 years of receiving it. So there may be years when, so they have to qualify. So it's important for them to go on it. There's also restrictions that their probationary year, even if they get the points, they can't receive the tax abatement. It's a little bit of it's a balance between an incentive for people to join, the recruitment side, and then also the retention side. So that list has, a couple of different purposes to it. So to submit an additional list or do that, it would just make it a little more or a lot more complicated into what we're setting up. And I think it's important to leave it like it is. Again, so this way the individual can make that decision on their own and communicate that directly with the tax assessor's office and not with, individually with the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
What would we think if we just remove the two words under first line of 3B and we remove the words except or, so that it reads such tax abatement each year may decline the tax abatement by March 1st.
Yep. I think that's what I.
Yeah, and as a nod to transparency there, that is the existing language.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. I think we've covered everything. I will send this back to town council with a ask to have a quick discussion, but thanks for bearing with me while I made a bunch of notes, because I think that's that will get us a better result.
Gene, if I may, just one question I have is that is this did we have our one opportunity to engage with Attorney DeBella, and is it now just going to be between the two of you, or is there yet another draft we could collaborate on?
We'll send out another draft once we have the discussion. I don't think revising the draft on the fly with town council is a good use of our town attorney's time nor taxpayer dollars, because we have to pay him for that. Mm-hmm. So I think giving him this, and if we think we need to have him back for another discussion, do you feel like we need him back for another discussion? Sorry.
Well, I think you have a pretty good understanding of our major concerns versus our more clerical concerns.
How about this? I'll have the discussion and we'll go over the document, and if he feels that he needs to come back and we can have a deeper second tier discussion, then we'll do that.
Yep.
I just want to be respectful of his time and billables.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. So we're going to move on to 8.5, submitted updated KVFD tax abatement SOP. And I'm not going to shuffle the deck chairs because we're going to have John have you there just in case. But the one change that was needed to be made was, remind me again.
25 to 15.
Radio.
It's almost like it'll be in the history textbooks.
So this was it was basically a typo, but we did want to make sure that, as we've been talking about this whole time, that we dot our I's and cross our T's.
Sorry, what was that again?
Yeah, Glenn, do you have access to SOP 1-7, the revised version? You're going to go to page 2 at the bottom. under discretionary.
Oh, I only printed out the first page. Hold on.
I'll get it on screen share. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Technically, Glenn, this will be SOP 1-7.1, which is really page 2. It's
Okay.
the point system.
The point system, yep.
Alrighty. So
First page. Oh no, I did get that. Okay, I have that.
second page, down.
There you go.
Up to 15.
So that when they originally submitted it, it said up to, was it 25, John?
Yeah.
So they needed to change that to up to 15.
Okay.
And so we need to make a motion on this. So Glenn, if you want to make a motion on that.
I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the Kent Volunteer Fire Department SOP 1-7.1 tax abatement.
Would that be correct, John?
Is that correct?
I would just to keep things clear and concise, I would encourage you to re-accept the whole SOP 1-7.
Oh, I'm sorry. So 0.1 is incorrect. Okay. I will make the motion to accept the Kent Volunteer Fire Department's SOP 1-7 tax abatement.
Update.
Update.
I will second that motion.
Update. Thank you.
Alrighty. John, Alan, Darlene, is there anything else that we need to think about as far as this motion? Just making sure it's, somewhat procedural, but I just want to make sure.
Our motion might include that particular detail so that for posterity, and if you were to mention update regarding discretionary points but I
think we're okay on that.
We're from the other side of the tracks, so.
Because it did follow a progression where you all, in the meeting minutes of a couple of months ago, we sent it back to you. You all went through your process, and then it came back to us, and now we're voting on it.
Okay. Yeah.
Darlene, any thoughts or pearls of wisdom?
No, actually, I was just going to say the same. The minutes do reflect why it had to go back for the amendment.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have anything either. Thank you for bearing with us and doing this. Thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate
that. I wanted to echo that. Yeah, thank you for your understanding in this error.
No worries. And thanks for, walking through the very procedural process. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. And now I will shuffle the deck chairs. Righty. Selectmen's reports. Glenn, yeah.
I got, just 2 questions about noise and traffic. Just to ask, have you received any information from the DOT about speed?
Crickets.
Crickets. Okay.
I will.
You can
I will
stay on
try
that.
and reach out to them. Yeah.
That'll be great.
I get a lot of crickets from them.
Yeah, that's okay. Just checking. And then there was a second report that Noise and Traffic did give us a while ago. And I know we've been busy with stuff, but if we can take a look at what needs to change there and finally, end that.
Okay.
That would be good. So
Okay.
that's those in traffic. And then just to say that in terms of the hiring policy, I did write up a hiring policy. I got that late for this meeting, but that will not be forgotten. I would definitely, Jean would like to get hiring policy on the agenda for next meeting, and I'd like to talk about what I wrote. I think that's very important.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I think we pretty much covered everything. Item that we have not been able to get to, which I think it's a blessing in disguise that it didn't get onto this agenda, is cybersecurity. We need to, very, very soon, just have that conversation about the changes that we need to make and updates that we need to get in place so that we can have a better cybersecurity posture. One other thing, we're going to be, there's a joint training that's going to be going on probably, we don't have a date on it, but Warren, Washington, and Kent are going to be doing an active assailant training. It's basically more of an education. So it may be that all three towns are really trying to get every employee to attend this really, really important training. So we'll keep everybody posted on timing for that. But Warren needed to get some numbers from all three towns before they could get in touch with or start to schedule the date with the state police. So that will be coming up soon. And we have another opportunity for public comment. Any electronic hands? I don't see any. One other piece is the Memorial Day Parade is coming up. That's been handed off to the town, and we're going to put together a quick planning team meeting for public safety and logistics, and have a stakeholder meeting with Land Trust, Lions, all the Kent Center School, all the different folks who participate in that to sort of create the new model that's going to be the town sort of hosting that event. I see your hand up, Lynn Mellis Worthington.
She was there.
Yeah.
I'm here, but for some reason my computer's not working. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my
You were there a while ago.
I know. I mentioned this to Jean, but the Board of Finance approved a new a set of guidelines. I guess they're calling them guidelines, not a policy, but it's regards to capital projects. And they mentioned the Board of Finance and a Board of Selectmen in there. And I wondered if you guys had gotten a copy of that, and have you, I don't remember you guys talking about it.
No, we have not. The genesis was the Board of Finance, and it's just one of those things that fell into the budget season cracks. So I appreciate the reminder, and we'll get that document, and just so that the board can review it.
Yeah, I think that the Board of Finance is going to move on that to try and get some unexpended capital funds dealt with. So I think
Oh, I think, Glenn, did you freeze?
I saw you freezing. Oh, there you are. You're moving again.
Yeah, and now it's saying my internet connection is unstable. So let's make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Fantastic. I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye. Thanks, everybody. We did a lot of good work tonight. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Night.